When you finished your morning ritual, you returned out to the main area of the apartment. Finished with his own daily prep, Derek had made his way back onto the couch. He couldn't stay away for long.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Hunger had become a third wheel to your party by that point, and you got to work to send it on its way. I love that. You and Derek threw something together and had a relaxed meal. It was all good. The two of you could pretend that this wasn't the last time you'd be waking up together for who knew how long. Sad. I heard from Liz. She's busy this afternoon, but says she's gonna see us later on. He nodded along, not looking shocked. Liz grew up in the area too. She had plenty of roots to water in that land.
Anyway.
Speaking of people to see, my family's coming over here today and so is Liz, but we've got to ask your mom still. They're gonna want to say bye, I bet.
Aw, we can ask for Holden to come too? That's kind of awesome. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna ask. Can Mr. Holden come too?
For sure.
Thanks for letting them visit. I'll text them.
Of course. It's gonna be so cool to open my own place to the grown-ups after being their guest a million times. And I love having you here with me. It's like we're living together for real, permanently, as if you weren't just a guest.
That's a bummer.
Too bad it's gotta end.
All morning, he'd appeared giddy, excited by your presence. That light still shone through, but averting your eyes from reality wasn't a foolproof strategy. He'd accidentally broken the illusion. He pressed his lips together tight and his brows pulled in tensely.
Today's gotta be big. It's the last chance. We should do something you couldn't do anywhere else.
You braced yourself for the coming conclusion and then smiled. I like the way you think. We should come up with something. Let's end the trip on a high note.
It's
The last chance.
Those three words came back softly, a more fragile echo of the original, yet they held even more weight.
Well,
He paused to take in a deep, intentional breath. Then he plainly offered a suggestion.
we could go to the boardwalk.
what do you think?
It's even further away than the water park, and we'd probably have to leave after only an hour, but we could make it if you want to. What do you think?
Derek's normally clear eyes were clouded with emotion. The boardwalk was a special place to him. We gotta go. Yes. Yeah. Alright, all my options are yes. That's perfect. What a great way to spend your last day.
Let's get to it.
He was halfway to jumping to his feet before he realized where he was.
As soon as we've finished our food, obviously.
That did not seem obvious to Derek until a second ago. Wish I knew what we were eating. Like, is it easy to eat on the road? If he's driving, it's gonna be tough. Let's just eat. We'll get there. It'll be fine. Yeah, we'll need the energy.
Right.
Very true.
You both finished every bite of your breakfast, although you could tell that Derek was rushing. You placed your dishes in the sink after Derek's.
Just leave them. I'll wash them later.
You didn't comment on the slightly out of character action and instead started putting together what you needed for the trip. After you had packed up some supplies, you headed out to the car. I'm so curious if we're gonna end up in the Ferris wheel again. I'm really hoping we do. I'm really hoping. During the drive, Derek's brain was in sharp focus.
We should make sure everyone knows that the get-together will be for dinner. Late-ish dinner.
I got you.
I'll leave it to you if you want to tell the gang about our own plans for the day or keep it a secret. I don't know if you want to deal with everyone asking why they weren't invited, but they are a lot more grown up than they used to be. Sometimes I forget that.
I mean, I'm sure Nico in particular would probably complain, but... you know what? For this run, it's our secret. He put a finger to his lips.
I won't say a word. You can't tell everyone everything all the time.
Exactly. You gotta have, like, some privacy. If they ask what we did, we can tell them then. But we don't have to tell them in advance, like, hey, we're doing this thing without you. So, I'm fine with that. After a very long ride and some struggles with parking, Derek had to resort to circling like a vulture until a spot opened up. You and Derek were strolling under a wide blue sky into the bustling boardwalk. The boardwalk amusement park was as dizzying and dazzling as it was 10 years ago. Music was playing from storefronts, screams blared out at the peaks of the coaster, and crowds of people were laughing and talking from all sides. You knew as soon as the scent of the sea and fried foods struck your senses that this was the right call for your last stop on your trip with Derek. At your side, Derek spoke, soft and sentimental.
We made it.
It's been a long time coming. Together you stepped further down the path. For a place that felt so alive, it was almost uncanny how little had changed over the years, right? The bike rental store was there, though they also offered shiny new electric scooters. There were still vibrant stalls offering a variety of fair foods, and the two big rides, the roller coaster and the Ferris wheel, continued to tower above the bustling crowds. You were sure of one difference without needing to see it. The face painting counter would have a total stranger running it. Xavier had moved on to decorating cakes rather than children's cheeks. Still, being there was a time machine to a summer long gone. You and Derek were two teens once again. He got your attention with enough boyish excitement to confirm it.
So?
What do you want to do while we can? We'll have to leave pretty early to make it back for the farewell dinner. But we can ride the rides, grab a treat, browse some stores. Or hell, we could rent our own bikes if you want.
His pure enthusiasm made frowns outright impossible. You chuckled, the joy vibrating through you coming out. Your first time at the boardwalk was an experience. It was such a huge trip. Both of your parents and siblings had been there, but separated into two groups. For better and for worse, you went all across the very boards currently under your feet. Meanwhile, the adults hadn't had their heels on the floor. They were fit into pedals. The shock you felt learning they'd gone off on bikes without a care in the world was as fresh as ever in your mind. And that wasn't all that lingered within you. Important decisions about face painting, Nico being carried around like a sack of potatoes, snacks on the bench as the sun set, and the Ferris wheel. Viewing it not only in hindsight, but as an adult made the moments even more significant. They were precious. You'd never experience your first time here again, or what it was like to be 13 when the world was only beginning to open up wide. Even so, your thoughts weren't completely tinged in rose. A fuzzy blanket of nostalgia couldn't make you forget how it almost wasn't a nice time, how it only got to stay good because one person cared enough to make certain it did. How Derek Suarez cared more for others than himself. That remained starkly true about him more than a decade later. For the brief time you'd been in the area, he gladly let Nicolas direct the activity, multiple times, and did his best to not let Jorge feel left out. Along with looking out for his own family, he never let that supersede your comforter once. And he accommodated your sister, too, after he put in all the effort to help her come see everyone. Derek even went against all his good boy standards and snuck into an apartment complex pool for the sake of the group. You were sure he had fun being a part of the misadventures, but most times he's been a passenger in the exploits, despite having to be the person who drove everyone else. That answered Derek's question for you. My only contribution is, you choose. I feel like you should have a boardwalk makeup day where you get to do whatever you want after how many outings you've let other people have their way. Well said, Molly, in-game. I approve of this message. Derek's grin collapsed open, a crease formed in his brows. He was stunned and very touched. While the appreciation was unmistakable, he hesitated to accept such an offer.
Don't worry about that.
You don't have to do that, it's your vacation. And you've missed out on stuff too.
You weren't surprised by that response, but it didn't play like a rejection. He only needed some extra encouragement, like a kid who thought it was bad to open a present before his birthday, even if he got permission from the giver. Maybe a little, but never because of you, Derek. You're not taking me for granted. Eye contact temporarily failed him. Derek watched his own foot scuff at the spot where one slab of wood met another. A downturned face didn't hide the wide smile across it.
Thanks, Molly.
It's my pleasure. Gradually, his normal confidence returned. It wasn't a mistake, he wasn't doing something wrong, he could simply enjoy himself, and he would.
Come on.
Okay then, if you're positive, sure. Want to get our faces painted? We've got to start the day right.
Yeah.
Woo!
Derek spun in a half circle and resolutely thrust a hand ahead of him, straight towards the chosen destination.
Nice.
I'm not too cool for face painting now. Hehe.
I'm gonna get whatever I want. It could be anything. The sky's the limit.
I promise not to copy you. The cheer in his voice and the shimmer in his eyes was better than any thrill the boardwalk could have offered. You almost had to feel guilty yourself. He'd done you another favor by allowing you to be the one who did him a favor. That tended to be the way it went. You weren't complaining about that particular dynamic.
Hey, you getting one?
Of course.
Cool.
With no time to lose and a plan in mind, you and Derek went to the old face painting stand with the new artist.
Welcome! I've got a free spot if you see something you like.
The painter was far less glamorous than Xavier, but no less friendly or worse at their job, if the new example photos were to be believed. They had their own flair in the strokes and choice of color. You ushered Derek into the seat. It was his day, and for once he was going to go first. After you. He appreciatively obliged, strutted ahead, and hopped up onto the raised chair. Derek had no embarrassment over being an adult at a face painting stall. It was nice to see.
Oh, excellent. What can I get you?
Derek took a polite glance at the offered styles on display, though didn't need any time to decide.
How about a shooting star? Good choice.
The artist wasn't simply being polite. Well, they might have been, but shouldn't if they were. Derek beamed like a star himself. Nothing could have fit better. Taking it from point to point before attaching a long tail, soon Derek's cheek was emblazoned with a bright star streaking across his face. But they hadn't finished yet. The stall had upped its production value since you were last there. The artist added a finishing touch of glitter to the centerpiece and painted sparkles over the basic tail.
Whoa.
Fancy! It was a pleasant surprise for Derek as well. He'd been sure of what he was getting and ended up with more. Hopefully that would be a pattern of things to come.
Thank you.
Derek shook the hand of the artisan vigorously before bounding out of the chair to show you.
Check it out. Not bad, huh?
Man.
Honestly, I always thought the shooting star was the coolest. It has the most going on out of any of the options, but it's not exactly Nico style.
It's a perfect fit. He let out a tiny laugh while only barely stopping himself from scratching his freshly painted cheek.
You're sweet. Thanks. But...
He twisted on his heels and took 2 steps backwards. The front of the stall was clear, and Derek was in place to keep watch.
Your turn.
Cool. You walked under the large umbrella that covered the stall and settled into the paint-splattered seat.
Hello, what can I get you?
It was a difficult question, but after some serious soul-searching, you said... A football, a soccer ball, basketball, a butterfly, a heart. I want a shooting star too. I'm leaving that for Derek. A rainbow, a sun, a smiley face, a car, a skull, a spider, an alien face. Oh, I gotta go whiskers. I gotta go whiskers and the painted nose, please.
Another wonderful selection.
For the second time, at least with you and Derek, it might have been their dozenth for the day, the painter put their talent into action. The bristles tickled your skin. You wondered how children managed to stay still for this. It might be because the process wasn't too long. You were in expert hands. While you'd been distracted by the unusual sensation, they had finished. Your whiskers and a painted nose was topped off with a dash of glitter, and the piece was complete. You smiled into the mirror the artist angled at you. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
When you rejoined Derek outside of the stall, he admired the charming composition. It got a thumbs up from him.
Awesome.
You paid the artist for their work. Just you, since you were covering Derek and he certainly wasn't paying for you, and then it was back into the thick of the park. Derek was on his way, and you were relieved to have him directing the course without a reminder to do so.
Since we're here, we've got to ride the roller coaster.
Yeah!
Alright.
Mutual thrill propelled you through the crowd, flying past the souvenir shops and food stands so fast you could imagine yourself already on the coaster. The line was wrapped around the whole base of the coaster, but neither of you intended to give up. You could be patient for your reward, though patient didn't mean calm. Derek restlessly bounced from heel to toe and repeatedly clasped and unclasped his hands, sometimes shaking his finger out. His behavior was more appropriate for someone about to jump into a big game they've been training all their life for. But Derek had already gone through that kind of experience for real, so it was fitting for him. The thick row of people filed forward at a gradual pace. Derek shot out eager chatter when he got to move. He held on to his high spirits the whole while, and eventually you reached the boarding platform. Finally, the suspense of waiting to be on the ride was replaced with the anticipation of the drop. You'd gotten the middle spot in the coaster, though with a bias towards the front. It was good with Derek, and that was good with you. Together, you piled in for the ride and closed the safety bar over your laps. A check of all cars was performed as usual, and when the clear was given, the wheels cranked ahead. It pulled higher and higher to the peak of the man-made wood mountain, until, without warning, the coaster careened over the other side. Derek hollered loud enough to hear over the shouts of everyone else, plus the clattering car and your teeth clattering in your head. You zoomed through twists and turns, being jostled around like you were tossed into a tumble dryer. And then it was over. You jerked forward when the car's speed decreased significantly at the last leg. Once the car cranked to a crawl and rolled into the station, you headed across to the exit on the other side, making sure not to leave anything behind. All the fellow riders went down the path in a group. Derek was out of breath and buzzing with energy. You were in a similar state. After ruffling his already completely tousled hair, Derek sighed happily.
You.
That was great.
Yeah. You began to drift over the boards again, heading nowhere but encouraged forward by the tide of park-goers coming through. He grinned over at you, as sweet as a mouthful of cotton candy.
What do you want to do next?
Wait.
No, what do I want to do next, right?
Mm-hmm. You still get to pick. Derek and you joined in with the laughter filling the park.
Force of habit.
Don't worry. I can keep reminding you. It's Derek's day.
Derek's day, huh? I like the sound of that.
He cast his focus up to the sky. Derek traced the edges of his jaw using his thumb and pointer finger. It reminded you of the way Mr. Suarez would stroke his beard thoughtfully and respectably. Derek was missing the facial hair, but the effect was the same.
What does Derek Suarez want to do? We've hit the roller coaster and face painting stall. I'm not huge on the refreshments here, honestly. They've got bikes and the scooters, but you can do that almost anywhere. On top of that, time's running out before we have to leave, so...
He'd been going somewhere and stopped himself. That was also a pattern of his. When Derek spoke again, it was quiet, wistful, more for himself than in conversation.
Well...
Probably shouldn't stall any longer. That's not responsible.
What?
I'll tell you this time. But, before I do, let's ride the Ferris wheel.
Let's ride the Ferris wheel! Are you gonna tell me on the Ferris wheel this time, please? Oh yeah. It'd be a big missed opportunity to leave without riding it.
All right.
Let's go!
Derek glanced around to get the lay of the land. You'd wandered far from the coaster and entirely lost touch with where you stood in the park. But your new target was the tallest structure for miles around. There was no trouble in determining a path towards it. Together you made another crossing of the boardwalk. The line for the Ferris wheel wasn't as jam-packed as the first ride you'd stopped at. Far more guests could fit at a time, and it was simply less of a draw to the high-energy guests attending that park. You couldn't get on immediately, but the wait wouldn't take long. Derek's attitude standing there was in stark contrast to how he behaved on the creeping crawl to the coaster. His feet were firm on the ground. A ride attendee got the door for both of you. That didn't mean you couldn't add your own touch of cordialness. Please, you first.
Thanks.
How kind.
He promptly climbed in. You carefully got up the 2 steps into the car after. Derek sat on the right bench, the same side he picked the last time you were there. I haven't been on a Ferris wheel a lot. I know I had to sit across from you last time because Nico was here. Because Nico was here and I couldn't sit next to you, I'm gonna sit next to you this time. Just to highlight, it's just the 2 of us here. Aww, cute. Derek squished his shoulders up around the sides of his face in childlike excitement and welcomed you to the seat with a grin. He put out an okay sign for the attendant. Then the employee closed the tiny elevated room. You were fully encased inside. It muffled the raucousness so much you could believe the entire world had suddenly faded away. Glancing out the window showed that all was well. The car rocked forward and you watched as the ground grew further away. You and Derek were completely unreachable there. For the duration of the ride, it was only you and him. That was freeing in a way. Derek seemed to think so too, because it got him to talk without reservation.
I know we didn't get to do all that much here. We're finishing up and the sun hasn't even started to set. But even still, this has been the best trip to the boardwalk I've had in years.
He poked at a small chunk of glitter on his cheek that clumped together and stuck out from the rest.
You're seriously great.
Aw, so are you.
I hope you know I really appreciate it. You're always looking out for me.
Yeah, I know. I feel the same way about you. The Ferris wheel continued to go round on its set, unchanging path. Always forward, never back. Even in the brightness of a summer day, a shadow fell over Derek's face.
Well...
You succeeded in making me happy. Is it alright to ask if you had fun too?
You're a very sweet man. You know what? I like this one a lot. But I want to just, like, be direct and be like, yes, right now I'm having a wonderful time. I'm having a wonderful time.
Cool.
His gaze dropped, and his voice was low, heavy with the weight of emotional strain.
Thank you.
Thanks to you, I finally got to feel like I did when I was a kid for a little while. That means a lot. It's what I've been chasing since I got here.
The big park, all dark and empty, Derek's pained confession. The scene all flashed through your mind. His words rung out. How he felt he'd lost so much and could never get it back. Maybe that wasn't entirely true after all. The soft smile on his face was exactly the same as the boy you once knew.
Hey, remember that time you stayed over at my place and we camped out in the living room? We talked about the future and our dreams.
The Father's Day thing might have been more of a bombshell, but I haven't forgotten the rest of that adventure.
Yeah, same. I had such grand plans a decade ago, huh? You were a lot more practical.
Oh man.
Now we're here and I have no idea what I'm doing.
Derek pressed himself into the heavy metal wall behind the seat and slumped down it.
I wonder what my 13-year-old self would have done if he'd called a psychic and they told him where his life would have actually gone. Maybe demand a refund.
Come on, Derek. Everyone knows you're too polite to ask for your money back.
You're right. But I would have thought about it. I'd have made a great speech in my head about how it's only fair to not have to pay for a reading like that.
Derek's voice faded out, replaced by the sound of his fingers tapping against the seat. One after another, they played a rapid beat like the fluttering of a heart.
This sucks.
Sucks that there's no way to actually know what's gonna happen in the future, huh?
Forget it.
At least today was fun. A good break from having to be grown-ups.
Boo, I want to be a kid forever. Yeah. You had to appreciate the attempt at optimism. It didn't stop you from being bummed that it was all over. Yeah, I'm bummed. I'm bummed we're getting to the end of this. I've been enjoying it so much. He grinned, staring at you head-on.
Hey, you should come by again sometime. Whenever you want to. Or can, anyway.
You mean it?
Definitely.
Leave it to me.
It's my apartment, I'm an adult, and I can say that Molly Waverider is allowed to visit all the time.
He declared it proudly, with a faux air of haughtiness. If his pitch had been a little higher, the statement would have been a fairly accurate imitation of Liz. It was all more than a little silly, but the smile growing on your face stopped short of becoming full. Derek's bold-faced confidence was only pretend. Regret remained hidden behind every smile.
I'm not gonna be too busy for you anymore. I figured out what my actual priorities are way later than I should've, but I did.
I swear.
Part of that is being someone you could actually count on again. So, my door is always open.
The truth is...
Since you've been here, I've finally started to see a future I want to have. I've thought about it more and more, and it keeps coming back to the same thing. I don't want to be this far away from you.
That was it, all along. The entire time you'd been staying with him, and even before you'd actually arrived, those were the words Derek had been holding back. He didn't restrain them any longer.
I was hoping to be closer to you when I lived in the next city over. Being neighbors was my dream. I wasn't totally kidding about that. But I wasted all the years we had being at a manageable travel distance from each other. I pushed off facing you for real until I reached a perpetually moving goalpost. I regret that. I still do. I don't know if it'll ever stop pissing me off.
Derek caught that his long-held anger began to carry him. He squeezed his eyes shut and forced a shaky, though steadying, exhale out.
That's not what matters, though. I can't redo the past. I've got to focus on what I can do. And what is that? I could move. I could live next to you now.
The clawing darkness of the past faded under the shining hope of a better tomorrow.
Why not, right? It's not as if I'd be canceling any amazing plans. I gave up everything before you got here. So this would be the best time for it. I don't have to renew my lease, and the career ideas I do have could come with me. I can start them somewhere else. Or, I know you're next to Cove, but if you've been wanting to come back to this area for more than a vacation, I could keep the apartment and you could move in. Maybe he'd want to move closer too, but I'd be up for whatever you are. We could be there for each other day by day.
For the first time, Derek had expressed the whole and honest truth of what he wanted for his life, for himself. It wasn't about his family, or only for your sake. But even then, Derek couldn't help pre-compromising his preferences. He doubted the appeal of his hopes to anyone other than himself.
Don't worry about that.
I get if you think it'd be overkill or you're still worried about how it'd work out. It wouldn't have to be forever.
He winked, cheeky and familiar.
I'm not asking you to marry me again.
Aw, what a shame.
Maybe it'd last for only a year, and then we'll have new plans. I'm gonna need time to figure out the long term either way.
So...
That's it. Derek's new plan. What do you think?
I respect what you want to do, and I don't want to stop you. I honestly would love to come and live with him. I would want to be close to his parents and Nico, and my mom's too. I'm not exactly sure where Molly moved to after the events of Step 3, but I'd like to come back closer again. Would it really be alright for me to live with you? That was almost too good to be true. You could be with Derek in a great place right by your family and friends. You'd hoped for it yourself, and for a moment wondered why something that perfect hadn't come up before. And the next instant you remembered why. Neither of you pictured the other feeling the same way. Doll. You imagined Derek was pursuing his sports dreams and never would have interrupted that. He saw himself as unworthy of others' acceptance until an abstract level of success was attained. But those days were behind both of you. The answer you gave, and the dazzling smile it gave Derek, was proof of it.
Really?
You nodded with complete resolve. There wasn't any need for doubt. Really.
Woo!
His arm shot up as he whooped a victorious cheer. Unfortunately, the Ferris wheel car wasn't built for that kind of celebration. His fist cracked directly against the metal ceiling of the cabin. But he laughed heartily, shaking off his smarty knuckles. Nothing was going to bring him down. He started to ramble off moving logistics and preparations that need to be made. Informing the landlord that there'd be another occupant was paramount, but he was positive she wouldn't mind. And you'd be able to keep that key he'd given you from the start, of course. It was dry, grown-up responsibility stuff, yet it sparked more excitement in you than any amusement park could have. Derek was able to rein in the frenzied babbling long enough to extend a hand towards you intently. You understood what he meant by that. The place, the time of day, the terms, so much of the situation was entirely different from the first time Derek had made you an offer, but the feelings behind it remained the same. An earnest desire to not be separated. Let's shake on it. You took hold of one another securely and shook.
It's a deal.
Yeah, deal.
Wow.
He slowly let you go before staring down at his hand in wide-eyed disbelief as if it wasn't his. But it was. Derek had taken his own life into that hand of his. You believed he wouldn't lose hold of it ever again.
I actually did it.
His scuffed fingers curled into a fist. Then he lifted his intense green eyes to your face. Derek had grown, and he'd held himself back. He'd changed, and he'd remained himself. He developed into an adult he should be proud of, and he was still the boy you met 10 years ago. It was all true at once, and it made you happier than you could say.
I'm feeling better about the future already. Thanks, Molly.
Derek had gained genuine confidence. He trusted his own decisions now that they were made to seek the best instead of to hide from the worst. Nothing in the world was more heartening than that. I am too, Derek. Derek satisfyingly stretched out his arms in front of him. He'd learned his lesson about moving them higher.
Well, I might not really know what I'm doing with my own life, but I've at least got a nice apartment in a great location with a balcony and my favorite people all around. I'll take that as a win.
You shook with the swaying of your personal cabin and of laughter, too. Derek snickered himself, but clung to a piece of the prior seriousness.
Phew.
It is a relief, though. Feeling good about sticking around here is more progress than I had a few days ago. And 23 is not that old. There's plenty of time left to work it out.
The world is our oyster, Derek.
You know it.
Looks like it. You're usually right about stuff.
For the first time in his waking hours, Derek was completely at peace with himself. Your spirits had flown straight to the moon like a pair of shooting stars, though physically you were still in the gently drifting cabin and its position was on the decline. The wheel's turn continued to slow until it came to a full stop. Derek's joy was replaced with utter horror in an instant.
It's...
Shit!
He threw himself to the window and pressed his face against it, but Derek could only watch in stunned disbelief as the first of the cars unloaded lower down. The ride was coming to an end. When your cabin arrived at the bottom, you took your turn to dismount. The same attendant gestured toward the tall framed exit gate and thanked you for coming. Doing as instructed, you left the Ferris wheel behind you. Derek picked up his pace, bounding with each step to get ahead. He didn't go further into the crowd, instead he jumped right in front of you. You paused, foot in midair, at the sudden and quite solid obstacle in your path. His arms were folded, his eyes intent.
Sup, Molly?
Sup to you. Derek grinned boldly as you curiously peered up at him, way up.
Would you want to ride the Ferris wheel with me?
What? What are you plotting? You blinked and put your foot down. As used as you were to repetition in relation to the Suarez family, that one caught you off guard. Whether this was Derek's impulsive side or his secret long game planning side, you couldn't tell. Maybe a bit of both.
Yeah, what a surprise!
Derek chuckled self-consciously. The shock had to have been clear on your face. It didn't stop him. He rambled on and on without taking a breath.
But honestly, I know we just did that and had a whole big talk, but there was something else I'd planned on saying. I thought I'd be able to go over it all, then it went so fast, but I can't say it any other place even though it's important. The most important!
That's why you were like, aw, shit. I was like, what? Did we not do the thing?
I swear.
If we can do this one more time, I'll never ask for anything again. Well, I'd ask you something, but it would be different, I swear.
Then his entire face closed up and he finally sucked in some air through his nose. When his eyes opened, they were wide and pleading. Of course, he'd have a pro puppy dog face. It was in Derek's genes. If that's what you want, I'll do it.
Thank you! I'll tell you when we're there.
Okay. Alright. I mean, I was gonna say, like, that was a nice scene and all. It felt more like we were friends agreeing to become roommates than anything, and I was like, oh, is that it? But maybe it's not it. Maybe I got baited out. A brand new promise lingering in your heart, you looped around the width of the Ferris wheel to get in line once again. When the line thinned and you reached the front, you got into another car. Derek took his usual seat on the bench set towards the right-hand side of the entrance. He gestured a hand towards the left bench, asking you to sit across from him. It'd be nice if I could face you more easily, was his reasoning. This had to be serious if he didn't want to welcome you right by his side again. Oh boy, I'm so nervous now. But you took a spot alone on the metal panel. I feel like I'm about to have a job interview. Yeah, the nerves are strong right now. Your heart thumped hard, your stomach clenched. Were you on the Ferris wheel again or the roller coaster? The sensation made more sense for the latter. Derek didn't fill the space with chatter as you were used to. Instead, he made use of his requested vantage point to watch you intently from across the small room as the rest of cars filled with guests, each having their own story that led them to the Ferris wheel that day. In a way, you and Derek were only one of thousands, nothing special at all. The attendant who'd let you on the ride hadn't even seemed to realize you'd been there minutes before. But in another sense, you and him meant a great deal. You were both irreplaceable, depending on who was looking. The way he watched you with unflinching focus, it was clearly apparent which view he held. The silence was all-encompassing, but the strength of his gaze kept your rapt attention. It was only once the Ferris wheel began its slow spin without interruption that Derek truly began what he'd set out to do. He placed his hands at his sides, fanning his fingers across the bench for balance, and he leaned in towards you, physically showing how he was ready to open up.
You're seriously great.
And again, right back at you.
Before anything, I want to thank you. Derek Day was awesome, and you're awesome for doing that.
The sound of his warm voice filled with familiar zeal was the greatest relief. No matter what was about to happen, you were safe with him. Derek was happy and bright, grinning as you always pictured him in your mind. It was difficult to imagine him as overly serious, even when you'd seen it in person seconds before.
But it's not even just that. Today isn't the half of it. Doing chores and running errands, making me feel so much less shitty over how I quit. And can I also mention real quick how cool it was that you cared about me and what I was thinking, instead of pointing out that I was irresponsible or wasted such a great opportunity? That was a big deal to me. But the smaller things matter too. You stayed up even later to help me when I absolutely had to put those groceries away right then. You insisted on putting together the game stuff so I could take it easy for a little. And you've always got to try to take the door opening move away from me.
Yeah, I do. Ah, I love that little summary. That's cute. He laughed without reservation. Talking about you had a way of bringing out his boyish enthusiasm.
Then on top of all of that, you're good to my family too. Even when we get dramatic and have our issues. They're a major part of my life. Always will be. So seeing how you get along with them is... well, let's say it tips the scales for this even more.
A special something danced inside his bright green eyes. It was as if he'd realized himself for the first time what he was actually doing.
Well...
I don't want to leave anything out, but I should get to the point. I'd die of embarrassment if I ran out of time again.
Derek's wink made you crack a smile. He had a way of bringing out a pure joy in you too. But his expression soon shifted. Derek put his game face on.
It's gotta be now.
His voice was low, dangerously close to inaudible. You didn't want to miss any of it.
The truth is...
Molly, my dream hasn't changed. My actual dream. Not the dream of being the best at some sport so I didn't feel like a failure. I mean the one I told you about right here almost 10 years ago.
That evening came back to you in an instant. It was the first time you'd rode this Ferris wheel. You had a very similar view then. Derek had been right where he sat now, but so much smaller and with his baby brother asleep in his lap. The sunlight had been fading, shadows pressed in around you, and Derek whispered his hidden hope while you were almost all alone. Picturing that scene, reliving the words he'd said, the first drop of the roller coaster inside you was coming. Derek had no idea what was going on with your thoughts, or if he did, he wasn't letting it psych him out. He was someone who did what he set his mind to, and his determination was resolute.
That's always been what I really wanted, even when I was pretending it wasn't. I still want, someone on my side, who's there for me as much as I'm there for them. A partner in life. Though, honestly, that wasn't the whole dream. There was one extra part of it. It wasn't just someone I wanted. It was you. That's why I told you about it and not somebody else.
The muscles in his legs tensed as he pressed his sneakers heavily against the immovable floor. There was nowhere to go, and that was the only reason he stayed in his seat. So instead, he used the energy to pull his radiating emotions into a single point and to put that in words.
I couldn't admit what I felt then, but not anymore. So, for once and for all, I'm gonna say what I've always thought.
Derek's premeditated positioning came into full effect as he stared you down straight on.
I swear.
Hey, it's happening! Yay! Oh, I'm so excited.
I want to be your boyfriend, Molly. I want us to be on a team, to face problems together. Not because there was no one else, but because there is no one else. And you can do with that what you want.
Then Derek let out a sigh and slumped in his seat. How you'd react, he didn't know. But he'd already accomplished something for himself simply by having the courage to tell you. I'm really, really sorry, Derek. Do I go in for the smooch? I kind of want to go in for the smooch. Gosh. I'm stunned. I'd be stunned in this moment. Gosh. I want to do the smooch so bad. Okay, I'm gonna make a save. I'm like looking through the matrix to figure out what I should do. I'm gonna do this first. See where that goes. I need to smooch this boy yesterday. So if this doesn't lead to like a smooch further down the path, I'm coming back to this. Alright? Alright, cool. The distance wasn't needed anymore. You broke the cardinal rule of theme parks. Don't get up from your seat while the ride is in motion. Your feet were unsteady in the dangling cabin, but your nerves were even. After a couple hunched over semi-waddling steps, you slid into a small opening between Derek and the wall. Derek's eyes never wavered and his mouth didn't open. He was waiting for you to speak now. The old feelings you had held on to since the original day at the boardwalk, and even before that, were as alive as ever. Better late than never, I'll take it. I like this. Just keep it nice and simple. I want to be with you too. Those words froze Derek solid. He stopped breathing. He didn't blink, and the stasis lasted long enough for you to worry over his oxygen levels. His face might have been blue under all that red in his cheeks. A deep breath through a crooked grin was what finally broke his rock-solid features.
Oh, man.
An unexpected perk of picking this spot is that I can't get up and sprint around for 10 minutes. That wouldn't have been a great reaction, but probably exactly what I would have done if I could.
I could go for a run myself right about now. He let out a shaking breath, completing the process of breathing only once over an entire minute.
Well, since a nice jog around the boardwalk is out of the equation, I'll have to do something else.
His eyes were alight. Yes! Yes! I'm so glad I didn't go for the kiss right off the bat. Yes! Ha 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 ha! Yes! This is perfect! Thank you, Derek.
For one example, I could kiss you.
That works. How about a hug? Nodded rapidly. You know what? I'm gonna do the He took your hands into his without hesitation. You gripped him back and leaned closer. He met you halfway. Your lips touched. First lightly, then with more confidence. His were pulled up at the ends the entire time. Aw, so cute! It was the first you and Derek had ever kissed. A reciprocal kiss born of mutual affection was better than you could have hoped for. However, you had a feeling there'd be many chances to outdo it in the days, weeks, and years to come. In the thrill of the moment, Derek's excitement got the better of him. His legs kicked up and he smacked his heels down against the bottom panel of the seat. A clattering sound vibrated in the tiny metal room, and it reminded you of the precariousness of your positions. Derek got the same wake-up call. You were still in the middle of a Ferris wheel ride, and bouncing off the walls wouldn't be the best plan.
Whoa.
He pulled your mouths apart, keeping you squeezed against his chest, and glanced around wide-eyed to check the situation. Like, I will protect you. Then he giggled joyfully, no less carefree.
I take it back. This wasn't a convenient place for a confession at all. If I really was as good at preparing as I claim, I'd have picked somewhere that wouldn't rock if you moved around. And one that didn't have a 10-minute time limit.
You both laughed, and Derek shook his head at the whole thing.
Oh well, it was unavoidable.
How come? The cabin you were in was once again looked over up and down, but Derek's motivation was different. He wasn't checking for damage, or to see if he was about to knock you both out of the sky. He was nostalgically drinking in the scene he'd found himself in.
Honestly, it's pretty embarrassing, but I didn't want to ask you out any place other than here. Or really, I didn't think I'd have the fortitude in a different location.
I mean, I couldn't picture a more perfect spot for you to ask her.
It's pretty scenic, right?
Well...
And mainly, it's the place where I started seriously imagining my future to be with you. Nico was there, so I couldn't ask you if you liked someone or if you wanted to get married in the future, if we're still single, of course. I ended up doing that in the park a little later. But it was here when it happened in my head. I promised myself that if the two of us ever ended up truly alone in a Ferris wheel, I'd spit it out before the ride was over. It was a secret deal I made with myself. A backup to the backup. That never happened until now. Partly because going out to the boardwalk isn't exactly practical. It's even farther away than the water park, so it never came up. The other half of it is because I was avoiding this exact set of circumstances. I avoided all Ferris wheels everywhere. If it came to this, I'd have to break my vow or actually do it.
Oops.
And the joke here is, after all of that, I still didn't get to it the first time. We had to go around twice.
Humor softened into endearment and chuckles faded into gentle whispers.
But we made it. Through all the years, and all the miles between us, we got back here. I think that counts for something.
It was a beautiful sentiment. Though, of course, he was Derek Suarez, so his childish spirit couldn't stay quiet for long.
Nice.
And I did do it! Now we're together! Woo!
Wait.
There's one final thing we should probably talk about. Or talk about again, really. Do you want to stay in the place you have for now? Would moving be moving too fast? Now we're in a different kind of relationship than we were a few minutes ago when that was decided.
I want to do it faster! I'd still want to do it. I want to be close to you.
I got you.
We've got a deal again. Or still, whatever. We've got it.
Thanks, Derek. You shifted and snuggled to get into the angle that optimized closeness and comfort. Derek linked his restless legs with yours to keep them content with something other than wild bucking. A freshly made couple enjoyed the comfort of the other's presence and bliss, though not for long. The ride once again came to its end, much too fast for Derek's taste. He sighed with great tragedy as the first of the passengers began to dismount lower on the wheel. You were of the same mind. Staying on Cloud 9 with Derek for many more revolutions would have been perfectly welcome. When your car was at the bottom, you and Derek returned to Earth side by side as you had left it. However, nothing was the same. The world was an entirely different place now. Free from the metal cage that kept him restrained, Derek leapt up and high-fived the tall decorative gate over the exit. Merrymaking wasn't entirely out of place there, but it was still so brazen it made some guests stare. He didn't care. How could he? His future had changed in an instant. A dream that belonged to you both had come true. Derek didn't know what to do with himself. Until suddenly, he used the same hand that hit the gate to clap across his own forehead.
Oh.
Shit! It's getting late. The first ride was supposed to be the final stop. We've still got the whole drive back.
Man.
I swear, I instantly stop being a responsible adult whenever you're involved.
It's okay. I'm glad you asked me to ride again.
It makes me happy too. But we should head out. I can't make you miss saying goodbye to everyone else just for me.
Together, you bounded across the boardwalk one last time. Knowing Derek wouldn't fall out of your reach when it was time for you to go carried you ahead fearlessly. Soon, you were packed into Derek's car and on the long trip home, to truly your home, after having made the most of the afternoon you got.